understand one more expression that is called percentage successive increment, right? And flat increment. Successive increment and flat increment. This is also very, very important. What is the meaning of successive increment? What is the meaning of flat increment? Let's take an example. So one simple example is, let's say I have some value x, initial value, correct? And I have some value here y after increment. Let's say increment is here. Just take an example, increment 20%, 30%, whatever, 50%, or let's say p%. Okay, that is the increment p%. So and again increment, again increment of q%, right? Increment of q%, I'll get some value z. Now this is the trivial example of percent successive increment. Why is that? The first increment of what value? Of x, right? Second q% increment of y, and that is example of successive increment. How do I find the value one by one? Let's understand, and we'll try to find out one simple expression to find the final value. Now, if I ask you everybody, what is the original value here? What is the original value? Wonderful, that is x. That is the original value. What is the final value here?
Z.
Of course, z. Correct. Y is not final value. Z is the final value. Now, to find the y, can I say y equals x plus p% of x? Can I say that, everybody? If now if you can rearrange the expression once again, how much increment? p%. I am adding because it's an increment. If it's decrement, you must subtract. So I am adding here because it's the increment. So x plus p% of x. And also keep in the mind, we increase or we decrease only of the original value. Keep in the mind always. If we increase, of what? Original value. If I decrease, of what? Original value. That you should keep in the mind this point. Now, can I take x common here? If I take x common, what will I get? Tell me. Will I get 1 plus p%? Correct? No? Correct? No? Yes or no? Done. Okay. This is the value of y. Now, how to get the value of z? Let's understand. How much increment again? Z. How much increment? q% of what? Of y. Correct? No? So q% of y, how do I write? Can I say y plus q%, which means q divided by 100 into y. Correct? Can I take y common? If you take y common, how much will you get? 1 plus q by 100. Now, do I know y value? Of course I know. Can you plug in here? Plug in the y value from the previous expression. So from here, this is the y value, no? So let's plug in here. What will I get? Get x into 1 plus p by 100. This value of y, and plug in the same value here, 1 plus q by 100. That is the final expressions required, everybody, when successive increment to find out the final value. So I did this work just to make you understand the background work. This background work is not required in the exam hall, right? Just to make you understand, I just told all this background work, right? So you can write directly. You can write 1 plus p% into 1 plus q% into x. That's all. Correct? No. If the percentage increment is the same, it will become the square. Correct? 1 plus p divided by 100 whole square into x. If the percentage is the same. If it's not the same, I should not put it that way. Any doubt, any question? Now, what if I get one more increment percentage? Nothing. I'll just multiply the same thing, 1 plus r percent. That's all. 1 plus r percent. Directly I can write it directly. Now you look at this side. This is also very, very important. No, the meaning of flat increment. Flat increment means an increasing the same thing, right? Example, let's say I have some value x. I'm increasing here for p percent. I get the y. I'm again increasing some layer, let's say r percent. Correct? I'll get some value z. So to find the value of z, what is happening? Tell me here. The p percent of what? P percent of x. Right? So if I find the value of y, how do I get? Same thing. Can I say 1 plus p by 100 of what? Of x. How to get the value of z? Same. 1 plus r by 100 into x. Correct. That is a flat increment. Not into y. Correct. Not into y. Look at here, which I said into y here, this side, because it was a successive increment. But here the p percent of what? Initial value. That means the original value. R percent of what? Of the original value. That's all the difference. That's all difference. If decrement, minus. That's all. Put minus. 1 minus p percent. If increment, put plus. Now, I'll give you one example now. Look at this. One simple example to understand. Let's say given here x initial value or increment is given 10%. Okay. I get here y. Correct. So how to get the y value? Y equals, can I say 1 plus 10% into x? So can I say 1.1x directly? That's all required. 1.1 means how do I get 1.1? 1 plus 10% of x. So 1 plus means 1 plus 10% means what? 101. 1 plus 10%, 110, correct? 110 divided by 100, which means 1.1 of what? Of original value. Now let's say given this way, x increment 10%, I got y, again increment 30%. Let's say I'm getting z. How do I find the value of z directly? So z equal, I can say 1.1 first increment, the next increment 1.3 into x. That's all. Correct? No. Means 10% means what? 1 plus 10%, because increment is given. Now again here 1 plus 30%, right? Into the original value. Into the original value. Same thing. Right? So now very simple example is the first example what I said, right? That is called compound interest, compounding. The same as compounding. Right? What is here? Simple interest, simple interest. So what is difference here? In the compound interest, the interest will be the different every year. Correct? No. And but in the simple interest, the interest will be the same every year. Why it's different in the first the successive interest? Because we find the next increment, next interest on the incremented value, but we do not do the same in the flat increment. In simple interest, we find the interest only of the initial value, always on the principal amount every year. In the flat increment, that is called simple interest. Or here what we get the interest increment every year, that is the called compound interest. That we will discuss later once again. I believe it's very simple to understand the meaning successive increment and the flat increment, right?